What is up, everyone? Welcome to round 3 of the Portland Monthly Premodern MTG Afternoons November 2024 tournament. We got a couple of rad decks to show you, so let's get into it. First up, we have Caustek with his return to Amugaba Turns. At least I'm pretty sure that's how you say that card. Anyways, this deck is crazy in the fact that it uses Dream Halls to power out a ton of card draw, and eventually the namesake of the deck, Amugaba, which is a 7-drop, 5 and 2 and a blue, for a 6/6 flyer that has 2 and a blue, discard a card from your hand, return it to its owner's hand, which doesn't seem that great until you realize it's a way to protect the creature if, say, your opponent does have a removal spell, and it really is kind of inconsequential when you're running Dream Halls, which is 5 for 3 and 2 blue enchantment. Instead of paying the casting cost for a spell of any color, its caster may choose and discard a card that shares at least one color with that spell. So when your deck is full of cards that say draw 3 cards, draw 4 cards, target player takes an extra turn after this, it can get nutty pretty fast. There is some acceleration in the deck with 4 Ancient Tombs, 3 Saprazan's Scary, which is a depletion land, and 4 Svelunite Temples, which is a sack land, I guess. You can sack it to add to your mana pool. The deck is also running 4 Show and Tells as an extra way to cheat out the Dream Halls, and yeah, once this deck is going, it's pretty scary. It's also running a single Reminisce to shuffle its graveyard back into the deck, a Mana Severance for once you actually have Dream Halls out, you suddenly don't need lands anymore, and Arcanist the Omnipotent, which is a way to just repeatedly draw all the cards. Sideboard is running some spice as well. It does have the 2 Hydroblast, 2 Blue Elemental Blast, but it's running 4 Envelops, 4 Teferi's Response, and 3 Confounds. Just an extra way to protect the Amugaba. And I'm going to get that name wrong the entire time in this video, but super sweet deck. It can really go off if your opponent doesn't really know what you're doing, especially in game 1. So without further ado, let's see who he's playing against. Next up is August with a format classic, Blue-Green Madness. Notably, this is not Survival Madness, this is just plain classic Madness. This deck is all about value with discarding cards and madnessing them out, as well as having ways to flashback or cast cards from your graveyard. The main heavy hitters are, of course, Wild Mongrel, Basking Rootwalla, and Aquamoeba, as well as 2 copies of Wonder, 4 Arrogant Worms, and just 2 Roar of the Worms, which is kind of interesting. The deck is also running 2 Self-Willed Colosseums and 2 Centaur Gardens, which does seem a little different than normal, but could add some extra value. Unfortunately, I don't have a shot of the sideboard for his deck, but it's got to be chock full of, I would say, Blue Elemental Blast, maybe a Genesis, some of the usual staples for Blue-Green Madness for sure. Without further ado, let's get into the games. And here we go. Caustek is on the left, August is on the right. I believe Caustek is going first here. And we'll see if both players are keeping a 7. Both players do have a lot of interaction in the form of counter spells. Yeah, looks like we're just going Island Go, but Caustek deck is quite a bit slower. There is a Blazing Rootwalla on turn 1, taking a point to cast it. Going for the aggressive start. August may know what Caustek's already playing, but if he doesn't, this is a good play because you definitely want to be on the beatdown. If the game goes too long, and you're not able to stop a Dream Halls hitting the field, it's going to be over pretty quick. Alright, we got an island, swinging in for 1. The players are all tied up. And there's a Wild Mongrel. August, not afraid of the gush, or of the mana leak, or anything like that, the daze. But that is going to get Arcane Denialed. Both players will get to draw a couple of cards. There's an Ancient Tomb for Caustek. Do we have a Show and Tell? I'm not sure if there is a Dream Halls in hand. There is a Show and Tell though, I do see it. Okay, we are going for it. Taking 2. There's a Show and Tell. And I was looking at all the stuff in hand. Okay, both players choosing what they want to put down. It looks like maybe an Arrogant Worm here. Alright, reveal. There's the Dream Halls. Alright, we have the combo. Now, can Caustek go from here? Does he have card draw in hand? Alright, pitching Arcane Denial. to draw 3 cards. I'll just reading it real quick. If you're not familiar with the card, it definitely does take a second. All right, drawing. Pitching another Arcane Denial to cast another Concentrate. Draw 3 more cards. And did he pass the turn? Or is he trying to decide? I can't imagine it fizzled already. He does have a lot of card draw on this deck. Not sure if he's trying to play around removal. I mean, removal wouldn't be in Madness besides counter magic. August could have a Daze, but Caustek does have a mana up. No, it's just going to pass the turn. With, I think, 7 in hand. Alright, we got some extra value. There's 2 more Basking Root Walls. The clock is real. Potentially up to 6 damage coming in this turn. More if he decides to buff one of the Root Walls. Instead, we are going to Frantic Search here. If it resolves. Notably, Caustek can counter by discarding cards. Well, he does have a counter spell in hand. I believe that's the 6th edition art. Or printing, at least. Yes, alright. Pitching a Reminisce, his one of in the deck, which is the only way to get cards back from his graveyard. And yeah, currently 4 coming in, unless we're pitching a card here. There's another Frantic Search, which we are pitching to deal 6. Caustek is down to 11. This is a 2-turn clock, assuming he whiffs, but there is so many draw spells in Caustek's deck, I have to imagine he's not going to be whiffing. At the very least, dropping a 6/6 flyer will stop a lot of the frontal assault for sure. Alright, we are gonna fetch here. Getting an island. I do almost wonder if this deck could run Gush. Maybe not. Maybe the mana acceleration lands make it a little too unreliable. Alright, pitching a Dream Halls for an opportunity. Draw 4 cards. Notably, Dream Halls does not work with X spells, so if you're wondering why he's not playing something like Brain Geyser, which I'm actually not even sure if that's legal in the format. Was it printed in 4th? No, I don't know. It doesn't do anything with X spells, so that's your answer. Hard casting a Concentrate here. Taking 2 to do so. I believe he found an Impulse there. Not sure what else was in. Pitching a Show and Tell, and there is Amugaba. Again, probably saying that wrong, but I think it's closer to what it's actually called. And now there's a time stretch. There are only 4 take an extra turn cards in his deck. This is a good time for one though, because he's able to swing in 4/6. Does he have another? Alright, Spell Knight Temple. And there's an Arcanus, which is a great blocker. It's a 3/4. You can also tap it to draw a card. Or sorry, time stretch is 2 extra turns. I'm sure someone in the comments already corrected me, but yes, it is 2 extra turns. So there's another 6. We're going to tap to draw 3 cards here. If he finds another time stretch, that is going to be game over. Found a Lotus Petal, which is another ramp card I think I forgot to mention. There is a Mana Severance as well in hand, so you could get rid of all the land cards. He is hard casting it here. Just make sure all his draws, for the most part, are live, I would say. Pretty close to live. You could, of course, hit some Lotus Petals or another Dream Halls or counter magic, but it definitely severely reduces the amount of dead draws you have. You have all the mana you could possibly need and Dream Halls. He does have mana up still to activate Amugaba if he needs to return it to hand, just in case. But again, this is a blue-green madness deck. Alright, we are hard casting the Impulse using the floating mana from the Ancient Tomb and an island. Can we find an extra turn spell? This deck always makes me curious to do a little more research about all the really high costed blue cards that we never really see in the format because they're too slow. Yep, that is another time stretch, and that is going to be game number 1 going to Caustek. Okay, always cool to see the brew deck do its thing, especially in game 1, where it has the most advantage before your opponent can bring in all the cards that ruin your fun. I'm assuming August will be on the play here. We'll see if both players keep a good 7. Looks like Caustek will be shipping it back. August is keeping. Hopefully that life total gets updated there on the bottom. Blue-Green Madness, though, is one of those decks that's just always kind of around. No one really, I think, respects it as much as they should. It is a very good tempo deck. Lots of good threats, lots of cheap interaction. If your deck isn't prepared for it, it can really just keep you out of the game. Especially a slower deck like Caustek's. August not having interaction at that key turn was definitely the big issue. We'll see if Caustek has a better 6 here. Looks like so. So away we go. Island pass. And I believe this is the depletion land, the scary. August tapping out. Are we going to see a Wild Mongrel? We do. Take a point damage to do so. Now, this might be a little risky unless he does have a Daze Up. And Caustek is just going to pass. Not going to try it. I don't know if he has the combo in hand of Show and Tell and Dream Halls, but just in case he does. Playing around Daze. Wild Mongrel coming in. There's an Aquamoeba. Leaving the Yavimaya Coast untapped. I don't know what single green he could be potentially bluffing, but there's a Gush. That makes a little more sense. Going to leave a blue up for that. That will get counterspelled. Makes sense. And we are swinging for 3. Is it going to be anything else? Alright, pitching a Centaur Glade. Not an often seen card. Kind of a interesting include in this deck for sure. being able to sack it to pump a creature, at least I'm pretty sure that's what that does, is pretty unique. It is of that same cycle of the Barbarian Ring. Barbarian Ring, I think, being the strongest, but the blue one, which I'm totally blank on the name right now, is pretty decent in the right deck. Having it in a Madness deck is a cool include. Generally, though, a one of, if it is included at all. But August running 2 copies of both, that and the Centaur Glade. Alright, so Caustek impulsing in the end step. And we are going to go find another island. I do kind of wonder, is the Polluted Delta just for deck thinning? I think it might be. And of course, everyone's going to say it makes very little difference. Is it worth the loss of life? I'm kind of on the fence here. This combo deck is so... Oh, yeah, there's a Dream Hall, which will get dazed. That is unfortunate. I don't know. I think if you're really counting on your draws for a combo deck, any fetches you can include, however slight, make a little bit of difference. But in this instance where he is against a much more aggressive deck, that life loss is going to be way more relevant than any sort of card draw you could get. Alright, there's an island. Caustek just trying to figure out what he can do. Oh, there's the second daze. And Caustek is just going to scoop it up, and that's going to be game number 2. The double daze, super unfortunate. I totally understand Caustek just scooping it up. After that point, he was dead on board. No way out. And of course, August, knowing to keep interaction after that beating, he took game 1. Getting only one other turn while your opponent takes, I believe it was 6 in a row. No, just 5. 5 in a row is a bit much. Definitely want to be keeping up whatever counter magic you can. And it is August's turn to go to 6. Looking for a better hand. I believe he did have the daze, but I don't think the lands were lining up quite right. Alright, that is a lot of lands. Looks like we are keeping that. I didn't see much early interaction, but we'll see. There is a Wild Mongrel. And we'll see if Caustek has the show and tell here. He does not. He's not going to go for it. 2 for the Wild Mongrel coming down. Will it resolve? No, it will get countered. Caustek with a few lands in hand. Hopefully that's not all he's got. Okay, 3 coming down for a Frantic Search. Taking a point to do so. That Cephalid Colosseum. Costing 1 life to activate every time. This is definitely the downside of these style lands, that and the Centaur Glade. And that is going to resolve. Deciding what to get rid of. He does have, I believe, Arrogant Worm. A little tough to tell. Yeah, Arrogant Worm. Root Wall will get Madnessed out. And the Arrogant Worm. On the Arrogant Worm, that will get Arcane Denialed. Okay. And say go. Ooh, drawing into the daze. Little risky. Arcane Denial is a very good card, but giving your opponent 2 cards, especially when they're running daze, is a little rough. I almost wonder if there's a benefit to playing Mana Leak. I know the reason why Caustek is running it is because it also draws him a card, and his deck card advantage is everything. Alright, there's a Careful Study. We do have another Arrogant Worm, which we can't cast right now. And I totally... Well, actually, I didn't even know these were in August deck because we didn't see a sideboard. But he does have some flashback enchantment removal. Yes, that base color may be white, but if you can in the graveyard, one in a green, that is actually some pretty nice tech. Alright, there's an Aquamoeba. And swinging in for one with the Root Wall. There you go. On end step. What are we doing? We are going to cast a Time Stretch, which will get dazed. Also, isn't Time Stretch a sorcery? No, that was an opportunity. Sorry. That is an opportunity, which is an instant target player draws 4 cards. Okay, that's much better. Also, Time Stretch costs 10. So, you know, I was doing my math all wrong. And Caustek just going to pass here. Not having too much going on, unfortunately. August playing out a Centaur Glade. Frantic Search. Don't forget to take a point for the Frantic Search because of that Cephalid Coliseum. Well, it might get missed. No, okay, he does remember. Good. And unfortunately not seeing too much. He does have that other Arrogant Worm, which is going to get cast. I would have to imagine. Although I would leave a blue up for that Circular Logic. No, we are taking it. That might be a bit of a mistake unless he hasn't played a land this turn, which I don't think he has. Oh, but he is pitching the island. Okay, so taking 4. Did he have another island in hand? Or did they? No, does not look like. Okay, missing the land drop here. And here's an Impulse. Not sure which one he took, but hopefully something good. Land for turn, Lotus Petal, and pass. I think Caustek just drawing a few too many lands here. Getting his draw spells countered at key moments too, also not great. Oh, we are sacking the Coliseum. There's a Gush. Unfortunately, having pitched that island to deal 3 damage makes it a little rough, so he's just going to pitch it as well. And there is a Naturalize up. Nope, getting rid of that. Alright, what do we have in hand then? We have the Circular Logic, and I'm not sure what his other card is. But we are swinging for 6 right now, potentially 8. No real reason to discard here. Nope, we're just swinging for 6. Say go. And Caustek needing something here. I think that's, yeah, just another island. Well, if he didn't have it last turn, I don't know if he's got it this turn. especially with that circular logic up. That may just be the nail in the coffin here. Lethal on board. Can Caustek get out of this? Alright, 4 mana. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Are we casting a time stretch? We are, which will get countered. And I think that's going to be game. Unless there's a day's backup, which doesn't even matter. Yep, we are packing it up, and August takes it down. All right, good games from both players. I told you that tempo deck can be mean when it hits its cards, but it is nice to see a brew do its thing, especially in game one. Congrats to both players. That was some great magic. Thanks to all of you for watching. If you made it this far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps out immensely. If you want to do even a little bit more, commenting below on your favorite deck in Premodern is a great way to tell YouTube that you're a real person listening to this and you actually care about these videos. I will also, of course, mention the Patreon in the video description below. That money goes towards gear upgrades, travel expenses, and just making more Premodern videos. All right, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.